A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Nerf Secrets Revealed Aftersought. And it's been a little while now, not long, since I last talked about a Rivals blaster. And of course, it would make sense for me to go ahead and try and talk a little bit different about the Rivals lineup itself. Well, here comes yet another grandiose example of 2020 in the flesh, pretty much, when it comes to Rivals blasters itself. Although, let's not forget that, well, the so-called naming craze has been very awful throughout 2020, because it was around that time, like at least during the first 6 months of 2020 itself, that I noticed that there were a lot of flaws when it came to names on certain blasters and lineups in general. I basically noticed that Rivals blasters, like this one, had not been called what they were supposed to. They were supposed to be referred to Greek or Chinese or like anything relating to mythology. This right here, you could call it whatever you feel like. Call it the Takedown, call it the Blamatama, call it the super geeky looking thingy, call it the, well, sawed-off crazy Blazy, I don't even know. But here's what I'm gonna know it as. Specifically because the Rivals lineup itself has been known for calling their blasters names, especially once they were taken from mythological figures out there. This is the rival Achilles, not Takedown, Achilles. And besides, I've actually taken the name Takedown and put it on something different, but that's a topic for another time. Another year, pretty much. It's gonna be a while before I come back to that, but can you blame me? But anyways, this is the rival Achilles, and honestly, this is probably one of the best blasters I might have ever gotten my hands on that pretty much had that sort of rough cut sort of feel to it. I mean, if you look at it, the design of it is very similar to that of the rough cut, except, well, it just has one barrel, and it takes in HIR rounds. And honestly, the pump action on this one is kind of smooth, a bit satisfying to hear actually. And I can honestly tell you for sure that, well, handling this blaster is pretty darn good. And to reload, it's kind of like most other Rivals blasters out there. Especially ones out there like the Heracles and the Kronos and the Mercury. You pretty much put the pump back and out comes an open inline clip itself where you can put in 10 HIR rounds. Now, I pretty much had this as a full magazine, and well, it looks like I'm out already. And to be honest, this blaster is certainly good for what it is. And that's mostly because of the fact that, well, I mean, the red color itself is pretty good, but as a matter of fact, Hasbro is actually considering about bringing this out in blue. So I feel like it's about time. The arrows should have gotten released in blue as well, and I don't know, like every blaster from the Rivals lineup that was released here in 2020 should have come in both red and blue. Well, now that Hasbro is actually putting it all together, we're gonna see an Achilles in blue, we're gonna see an Eros in blue, we're gonna see a Morpheus in red. So, again, it's about time that happened. Now, of course, now comes a special treatment. Invisible, it's integration. So, let's just see how this works. Well, okay. The Achilles is quite courageous, like the same mythological figure, Achilles. So, anyways, this blaster itself certainly does have quite a big load onto it. I mean, advantages are pretty simple. I mean, you can blast yourself off with like 10 different rounds at the same time. And overall, I feel like that this was just a pretty good step up in terms of, well, adding a Rivals-based blaster to the Rough Cut family of blasters, because after all, since the design is very similar to it and the functionality is quite similar to it, although I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but yeah, you can't really perform slam fire on this. That's kind of one thing you can do, but basically the reason for that is because, yeah, it's because of that. The pump tends to get a little like jittery and stuck because you try and do slam fire, yeah. I suggest you wouldn't do that, because you could actually break the blaster if you did it enough times, but I've rarely done it at all, and that's simply because I know that this thing does not have slam fire in it, so I just know for sure that it cannot be done whatsoever. Well, anyways, there's just not really too much that I have left to say here, although, well, there's tactical rails on the top, but again, the Rivals lineup, they have their own accessories, and since I don't really have much of accessories from the Rivals lineup, there really just isn't too much for me to talk about. But you know what? That's pretty much not the point here, because after all, there still are a few other blasters here, and many which are much newer here in 2020. And since they are much more recent releases, I guess I could probably focus a little bit more on those before I finally sign off for good with Nerf Secret Revealed. And then of course I'll have the full Bolts of Intrigue feature film production completely finished up and released. And then of course I'll be moving on to some other projects of mine that I'll have as well. But until then, I'm Jay Nowak, and this has been Nerf Secret Revealed Aftersought. Basically my little review section of blasters of which that I have in my collection. And of course the little spot to where I give them the extra dosage of power. Invisible integration, of course. So anyways, if you want to see more, go down to my channel though. Then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.